I think the biggest change I've seen, and it's not a good change, never before have I known food to be so much associated with your identity.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's something we've mentioned before, how almost you've got nutritional tribes now as well. So it's almost like your personality can now be ketogenic, or your personality can now be if it fits your macros. Yeah, it's really tribalistic. I know obviously you mean like a deeper meaning in that, but it's something we've kind of touched upon very lightly before.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it comes, I genuinely think we live in a world now more so than ever before. And obviously, you know, I qualified pre-social media, so feel very fortunate that had an amount of time in my adulthood where I didn't have any social media, and ignorance is absolutely bliss.
The good days, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think social media has its opportunities and has its place, but fundamentally is a very, very toxic environment. Yeah. And what it does is that even individuals that probably have come from very grounded backgrounds and you know, good family structure, and there's been no real adversity in their life, as soon as they're introduced to social media, it's almost like this little switch gets turned on about a sense of unworthiness, because you're constantly comparing and you're seeing what everybody else is doing, and then you feel like you have to, it's almost like you're in a competition 24/7. Like everybody's constantly trying to shout louder about their achievements and how adventurous they are and how fit they are and what they eat and how healthy they are. Totally. And it really winds me up. Even some of my friends I've almost had to take a step back from, because I'm like, but that's not who you are. I know who you are, and that's not real. So why are you doing that? Like, I find it really, and a lot of it's to be elevated, you know, to get that sense of that sort of attaining of worth and that validation. So I think for me, I always worry when I see Instagram accounts that are just food, you know, or people always posting what they eat, and because I just think that tells me so much about that person. I think, you know, like, I'm not saying you should never post your food. I'm not saying that. I mean, you know, every now and again I will post a picture of.
But when it's associated with their identity, almost.
But it's when it's all the time, you know, and it's like, well, actually, if food is that much of your focus, that's a bit of a concern, because that isn't okay. And
hyper vigilant towards food, almost.
Yeah. And I think I think what they're trying to do is exactly that, is that kind of, I want you to know this is the type of person I am. Yeah. You know, I'm a green smoothie kind of person, or I'm a Buddha bowl kind of person, or I have a matcha tea, or whatever it might be. God help me, I have no idea. I'm a Ryoka kind of girl, but you know, I just think it's interesting, because I think that's probably the biggest thing I have seen, is this link to your identity rather than the enjoyment of food. There doesn't seem to be as much enjoyment of food, and I think that's really sad, personally.
Something we spoke about quite a few times. And that when you were talking about that, all I was thinking of the amount of profiles I've seen on Instagram where in the bio they will say what diet XYZ they are, and it's almost like a badge of honor. It's like why does anyone really care what, like, I mean, if you decide to choose what just
it's almost like a part of their identity, isn't it? It's
really
if weird,
you decide what you want to do for your own reasons, but then when you said when you tell people, it's almost like, hey, look at me, oh wow, yeah, I'm better than you almost. And it's like, well, why are you better than me?
It is that, and I think, you know, I know we're going to talk about it, and I'm not trying to plug it, but I think that's what brought me to write the book. Was I wanted people to not need. I suppose I wanted to give people permission. To be themselves, to respond to their own internal cues, to not feel like they have to follow a trend or a tribe, but actually understand their own bodies and work out what works for them. And what I hope people, what I've always said this, that when people finish reading the book, what I hope they leave with is, firstly, that Renee McGregor cares about them, because that's why this book's been written, but also that, you know, that individual they feel like I'm relevant. Doesn't matter what food approach I eat, the way I eat. It doesn't matter what approach I have.
We're not judging you on what your food choices are.
Exactly.
You don't have to be validated by your food choices.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think I do feel really sad that we have become the population we've become, and our relationship with food has become so skewed and people have this there's so many misconceptions as we go full circle to where we started. There are so many misconceptions about what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. And in reality, we all know from the work we do, there's no right or wrong as such. There's no, you must eat this and you mustn't eat that. Yeah, there are things we should eat more of and there are things we should probably eat a bit less of, but nothing's off the cards. Like one of the sort of most common conversations I have in clinic is, but nowhere is it written that we should never eat sugar. Nowhere. If you look at the guidelines, it doesn't say you should never have sugar. It says it should be the smallest contribution to your overall intake. But again, that's a guideline for the general population. If you're an athlete or you're somebody who's physically very active, or there may be some other metabolic condition going on, you might need a different approach. You might need to have a bit more sugar in your diet. You might need to top up your energy. And I think that's what I want people to understand, is that we have guidelines, but that doesn't make them fact, doesn't make them rules we have to stick to. Yeah, I think there are just so many rules. There seem to be so many food rules.
There's a framework we can work with here. It's not this dichotomous, you have this or no, you cannot have this.